Welcome back to the Wrestling Review Podcast, where this week we continue our look back at every single Monday Night Raw with what is the 12th episode of Raw. So this week we are live on April the 12th, 1993, again from the Mid-Hudson Civic Center in Poughkeepsie. We start off with Money Inc. handing the Beverley brothers some money, and the Beverley brothers give Money Inc. some information on the Steiners. And what the Beverley brothers tell them sounds like really basic information that the Money Inc. really should have just known. I don't know really why they're paying the Beverley brothers for this information. Like, they just tell them about some of the Steiners' moves and what to look out for, and it just makes Money Inc. come across as really quite dumb. You know, it's just, didn't make them look really good at all. We get our opening video next, and we, as I said, are coming live from the Mid-Hudson Civic Center. We've got Vince and Rob at ringside, who highlight the upcoming matches, as well as a debut as an upcoming superstar who we'll learn is going to be called Friar Ferguson. Randy Savage is there as well, but he doesn't really say a whole lot in this opening bit. Our first match of the night now is Scott Steiner versus IRS. IRS comes out first and gives his usual tax promo. Out comes Scott, who comes out accompanied with Rick. We get an arm lock from Scott, and IRS gets to the ropes, and then they do the same thing again. We get an enziguri from IRS, which looked pretty nice. An uppercut from Scott reverses the Irish whip and hits a big power slam, but Ted DiBiase distracts the referee, and IRS bails to the outside. We get a headlock from Scott off the ropes with a shoulder block, IRS with the takedown, but Scott counters and takes IRS headfirst into the turnbuckle. Scott starts working the arm of IRS, but IRS comes back with an elbow to Scott. A suplex is blocked, and Scott gets his own suplex for a 2 count. IRS goes to the outside again, he comes back in again. We get a collar and elbow tie up, and Scott backs IRS into the corner and gets a thumb to the eyes. Ted takes down Scott as he gets thrown to the outside. Rick Steiner rushes round and stands there while Ted takes off his clothes down to his wrestling trunks. Again, a little bit strange. We get an advert break, and when we come back, the match is still going on. Both men are back inside the ring though. IRS is in control and hits a pile driver, which wasn't great, and Vince even says he didn't get all of it. IRS with the chin lock, exchanging right hands, and IRS gets the better of him and hits a backbreaker. IRS goes up to the top rope and hits nothing, but gets a boot to the face from Scott. IRS goes into the ropes and eats a big elbow. Scott with 10 punches in the corner. IRS is looking very sweaty, which, to be fair, I'm not surprised. Like, he's wrestling in a shirt, a tie and trousers. You're gonna look a bit sweaty. Scott takes hold of IRS's tie and runs to the ropes and leaps over the top, holding the tie, and drops IRS across the top rope in a really nice looking spot. Scott then with the back body drop and a double underhook suplex. Ted comes in to break up the count and a DQ win for Scott. The Steiners take down Ted, and then Rick goes to the top, and the Beverley brothers run down, and the 4 men gang up on Scott. We get a double clothesline from the Beverleys, but Scott ducks and they take out Ted instead. Beverley brothers and Money Inc. now square up, and they knock IRS out of the ring, as in the Beverley brothers, and Ted begs off before offering to pay them some money. Ted gets out of the ring and Money Inc. finally leave. It was an alright match. Again, the Steiners looked pretty good. Well, Scott looked pretty good. There's some nice spots in the match. Nothing spectacular, but not a bad opener for the evening. We get a WrestleMania recap, the main points of WrestleMania, and a bit of a hype for the replay tonight on Raw. So they're really sort of selling the fact that there's a replay of WrestleMania going to be on after Raw tonight. Our second match is Tatanka versus Von Krush. Tatanka's music hits, and he runs to the ring and dances around, chasing Von Krush. Poor Fink has to keep running in circles and moving his microphone cable out of the way as Tatanka does laps of the ring. Tatanka again gets a fairly good reaction. Von Krush seems to spit at Tatanka and gets the early advantage, but a hip toss and a second gets Tatanka back in control. Doik comes out and squirts the camera with water, and Tatanka gets squirted from the umbrella, but he doesn't seem to notice. That's it. Doink wanders off again. Cool, thanks for coming, Doink. We get some chops from Von Krush in the corner, but Tatanka comes back with chops of his own. We get a hard Irish whip from Tatanka and a slam, followed by an elbow drop and a suplex. Tatanka comes off the ropes and gets caught by an elbow from Von Krush. We get a back body drop from Tatanka, and after a few chops, he does his hulking up routine, dances round, sort of skips around the ring, hits a chop, comes off the ropes with another, hits a Samoan drop for the win. Fink even announces the winner and still undefeated Tatanka. I wonder how long this is going to keep going. Like, you know, he gets a decent reaction to Tatanka. He's certainly been featured quite heavily on Raw that we've seen. Had the Intercontinental title match, which obviously he didn't win. Well, won but didn't win at WrestleMania. So it's, yeah, I don't remember Tatanka being all that good. He's not all that great that I've seen, but it's hard to tell when he's in there against Von Krush. I thought his WrestleMania match was pretty damn good against Shawn Michaels. So, yeah, it's just interesting that they are announcing him as still undefeated. We get a WrestleMania report now with Sean Mooney, who we haven't seen Sean for quite a while. I think maybe like the first episode of Raw. Maybe he was there on the second. Can't really remember, but yeah, we haven't seen Sean Mooney for quite a while. We get another hype of the replay tonight after Raw. Sean says WrestleMania 9 is being called the greatest of all time. I'm not so sure about that. We see some still images of Brett and Yoko and a graphic letting us know that the VHS will be released soon. Sean confirms that yes, Hulk is in fact the champion, and we see the two Doinks, Giant Gonzalez and The Undertaker. I don't know, if I hadn't already watched it, the fact that Undertaker is featured here, Giant Gonzalez, some of the big matches that I knew were happening but doesn't give too much away, would I be interested in, if I didn't buy it the first time, would I be interested in buying a replay of it? I don't know. Maybe the fact that Hulk's champion, I might want to see how that happened, but yeah, I'm not sure. Next up, we're going to get an interview with Luna and Sherri. We see Rob reading the WWF magazine, and we get a Steiner's Ico Pro advert first. It's just them training and then saying, "You gotta want it," while pointing at the camera. Yeah, Brett's was a bit better. The Macho Man Slim Jim advert, and then we see Rob again, who says he's very pleased to be here and do the interview, but he seems either totally out of it or just not interested at all. I've never seen anyone look as bored as Rob does at this point. I guess he's maybe going for comedy, that's his thing, he does these little bits, but he just comes across as just like he would really rather be anywhere else other than doing this interview. Luna comes out screaming. Rob says hello, and Luna starts screaming and says she's a true woman of the night and she's here to say the facts about Sherri and calls her a witch. Luna says that she's here to say what she has to say, and the only thing strong about Sherri is her breath. Rob says that Sherri is here, and out she comes looking pretty mad. Sherri says Luna shouldn't be there on Raw, and Sherri says that she's been against bigger men than Luna is woman. Yeah, it kind of wandered a little bit, this promo. Sherri then attacks Luna, and Sherri and Luna go at it, with Sherri suplexing Luna, and they exchange some fists and kicks. Sherri starts choking Luna with a cane, and Luna tries to rip Sherri's clothes off. She does end up with Sherri down to her bra, and Luna's sort of in her pants as they rip clothes off each other as they fight into the crowd. Sergeant Slaughter picks up Luna and carries her over his shoulder to the back. Really, really well done segment. I really enjoyed that. Just something completely different with the women. We haven't seen women really featured at all on Raw yet. Just really, really well done. Sherri and Luna, the way they both went after each other, just came across as really real. It was a bit, ripping clothes off, yeah, okay, but the intensity was there. It was brilliant, that little segment with those two. We come back from the break and we see that Sherri is using Macho Man's hat to cover her chest. Macho Man has a microphone, but here comes Luna right back out and they fight some more, with more of Luna's top being ripped off, and we get an "oh yeah" from the Macho Man. Sherri says something, I can't quite tell what she says, and then she ends with the fact that she wants Luna. So, yeah, kind of looking forward to this. Hopefully we get a Sherri-Luna match sometime soon, because that from this angle, from this little bit, would be amazing. After all of that, we get Papa Shango coming down to the ring, and he's going to be facing Scott Taylor, who's waiting in the ring for him. Papa Shango starts off with a kick and a whip, but punches and a drop kick from Scott. A second, though, is blocked, and a big hip toss out of the corner by Papa. Vince says that the Beverley Brothers and Money Inc. are negotiating a deal for a match next week, and the title could be on the line. I like to think that, they had a bit of a set too, but then they've gone backstage and now they're just having a very civilised negotiation. It's, a little bit different. Then Rob comes back out with his clothes all ripped and kind of looking beaten up, and he collapses on the floor. We cut back to the action in the ring, but not long enough to see a slam and then a shoulder breaker for the win from Papa Shango. Yeah, it's another of these matches that we seem to have had a few where what's happening on the outside and the story seems more important than the match that's going on, and it gets a little bit lost. Obviously, Scott at this time is a complete jobber, but I feel a bit sorry for Papa Shango. He's out there working and we're just not paying attention to it. After the match, Macho Man slaps Rob a few times to try and bring him back round. We get an advert break, and when we come back, we see Friar Ferguson come down to the ring. He has a notepad around his neck that says Monk with a smiling face. He gets in the ring and drinks from like a flask, like of a horn kind of thing. I'm really not sure what Friar Ferguson is. I mean, I get that he's a monk, but why? Why is he a wrestling monk? Why does he have a notepad around his neck? Yeah, I really didn't get it. Anyway, he's going to be facing Chris Duffy. Friar pushes Chris around and hits some clubs to the back before reversing a pile driver into a backdrop. Gets a leg drop. We see the notepad in the corner with a drawing on it. Chris rolls to the outside. We get an eye rake and Friar slingshots Chris to the outside again. Vince confirms that next week we will have a non-title match for the Beverley Brothers versus Money Inc. Chris gets whipped into the corner. We get a hip toss from Friar, followed by him doing some sort of dancing. This match is awful. Really, really awful. We get a slam by Friar and a splash, but only gets a 2. I'm not sure if Chris kicked out or if Friar let him up. Clothesline into the corner from Friar, and Vince tells us again how much Friar Ferguson weighs. It's a lot. We get an elbow from Friar and a nerve hold, and I really can't wait for this one to be over. It is painful, and that's the match, not the nerve hold. Friar wins by kind of sitting down on an attempted sunset flip and then doing some dancing before sitting down on Chris's face. He leaves while squirting drink from his flask to the fans into their mouths. It was dull, pointless. That is a debut of a wrestler in the main event spot of Monday Night Raw. The crowd couldn't have cared less. I couldn't have cared less. It was awful. Just the wrestling was bad, the match was bad, the character was bad, everything was bad. I don't get it. I don't get if it was supposed to be ironic. I don't know. It was bad. We get a WrestleMania recap now, and we see Todd interviewing some fans and asking for their reaction to the show. We are back in the arena, and Vince again tries to sell us on the pay-per-view replay. We get Money Inc. in the back now in the dressing room, and this actually comes after a WWF Figures advert. Vince says they are waiting, and so we see Money Inc. just standing there. But then instead of talking to them, Vince decided to tell us about next week. So we cut away from Money Inc. again, back to Vince in the arena. He tells us that Brett will be here for an interview, and Virgil will face Razor Ramon. We go back to Money Inc. again, and this time we do finally talk to them. We get about 4 words from Ted before the Beverley Brothers rush in from behind them, and we have a brawl in the back as Monday Night Raw goes off the air. Overall, an alright episode. I thought the opening match, the Scott Steiner IRS match, was really good. Tatanka, meh. Papa Shango, meh. Friar Ferguson, no. The whole evening really was saved by the Luna and Sherri angle. I thought that was great, and I can't wait for next week to see what happens. So be sure to join us then as we go for another look back at Monday Night Raw.